Good morning, everybody, and I want to thank everyone for coming. Providing the best education to our children is a priority for all Nova Scotian families. It is also a priority for our government. Improving the quality of education for our students is in fact critical to our economic future and quality of life. Preparing our children for the economy of the 21st century means we need a public education system that is adapted for the 21st century. Our vision is a public education system that will enable every child to succeed in an innovative, knowledge-based global economy. In the last decade, education funding has increased year after year, but Nova Scotian children still fall behind their peers from other jurisdictions in many academic areas. At a time when our province is dealing with steady enrollment decline and slowly recovering from a recession, we can no longer afford to do things the way we've been doing them. More than ever, we need to use our resources effectively to improve student outcomes. To help us address these emerging challenges, we asked Dr. Ben Levin to give us some independent advice on how to educate more students to much higher levels of accomplishments. Dr. Levin will provide you with an overview and more detail about his recommendations. I had the opportunity to read through them, and I can say that his report is practical and strategic. It offers many innovative ideas that will not only make the education system in Nova Scotia more effective and sustainable, but also improve outcomes for our children. Dr. Levin made it clear that education reform and improvements can only happen when all partners in education, including students, parents, staff, educators, and governments, work together. And that's exactly what we're doing. We are asking all the groups I just identified to provide their input and feedback on this report. We have an online forum, a discussion, starting today, and we will be responding to this report in the fall. While we are facing many challenges, our education system has many strengths. In fact, Dr. Levin said that Nova Scotia has much to be proud of because of the province's education system, and I couldn't agree more. His recommendations will build on those strengths. Our children are our most valuable resource. It is critical that we continue to focus our energies to ensure students achieve at higher levels. I want to thank Dr. Levin for his excellent work, and I look forward to hearing what Nova Scotians have to say about the ideas he has put forward. And with that, I am now going to turn things over to Dr. Levin to talk about his report and to share his thoughts. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Levin.
Thank you, Minister. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues. I spent basically my whole career, most of my life in education, actually starting when I was in high school and trying to organize a high school students' union in Winnipeg. And that's one reason why I found this assignment particularly interesting. Being asked to look at a system and think about how it could move forward and continue to do good things and do even better things in the face of some new challenges that are faced both fiscally and in terms of enrollment. Turned out to be a very interesting assignment, and I was pleased to have the opportunity to take it on. So I want to start by reinforcing what the Minister said, which is that based on everything we know, public education in Nova Scotia is good. It has done a lot of good things, and there is a record to be proud of, and the people of the province should feel good about their education system. But as circumstances change in the world around us, our institutions need to change to adjust to them. And what I've tried to put forward in this report are ideas that I think are practical and that are also well-grounded in the research evidence. So one of my views about education, as someone who spent a lot of my life as a researcher, is that we actually know a lot about good policy and practice, and we don't always use what we know. So part of my goal is actually to make sure that what we do is well-grounded in evidence. I'm going to assume that people have had time to look at the report, and so I'm not planning to take you through it in any detail. But I will say a bit about the fact that I've organized it under 5 main areas of recommendation. I want to mention something about each. The first one, which they are in an order, well, they are in an order of feasibility and importance, I guess I could say, is the goal of reducing the amount of failure in the system. And I want to be very clear that reducing the amount of failure does not mean giving anyone something that they haven't earned. It's helping students to earn success more effectively. In every system, failure is seen as wasteful. Education, in some ways, is an exception to that, where we seem to have the idea that failure is a sign of quality. But I can't think of another instance of a system that would regard a high degree of failure as being a sign of quality. So I think what we're trying to do here is say, how do we push success and try to reduce the amount of failure in the system, which frees up a lot of money because failure is expensive. It's expensive for the individual students who experience it, and it's expensive for the system as a whole. And I made some suggestions in the report about specific areas in which I think that could be done and ways in which it could be done. Second, to improve daily teaching and learning practices, because, of course, that's the heart of the education process. So whatever we may do in departments of education or in school boards, the real heart of the matter is what is happening when teachers are working with young people in our classrooms. Teaching is a demanding job. When you see it done well, you see people who have a fantastic amount of skill and expertise. And so if we want to have an excellent system, we have to be thinking about how we can continue to work with the people who work in the system to help them steadily get better at their work. And that is not to say that people aren't good already. You can be good and still be trying to get better. In fact, usually in most fields, the people who are best at things are the people who are most focused on getting better yet. So I don't want to suggest that we don't already have skilled and competent teachers. We do. But in the face, again, of new challenges and new circumstances, there's an unending need to work with educators around helping them improve practice. And as our research base expands and we know more about effective practice, then it's a matter of helping to integrate that knowledge into the daily work of the education system. Allowing more things to count as learning. There's a huge challenge in school curriculum because we want children to know everything, and so we tend to stuff more and more of it into the curriculum, and then it becomes an impossible task because you just don't have the time to do it. But in a world now of increasing amounts of independent learning, online activity, other kinds of independence in the workplace, I think we need to be thinking about how we help students acquire those skills and at the same time pursue their own passions, because we know that pursuing passions is something that engages people and increases performance. So I have a set of suggestions in here about ways we could open up what counts as learning and also encourage students to do more independent learning at all ages, really. Building public support and engagement. One of the hard lessons we've learned in education around the world, and I am fortunate to have the opportunity to work in a lot of different places and see education in a lot of different parts of the world, is that you cannot improve an education system by beating up on the people who work in it. That's been tried and it hasn't worked anywhere. So education is a public enterprise. It engages a huge number of people, not just the people who work in it, and not even just the people who send their children to school every day, but those people's families and the grandparents, the employers, in fact, the whole community owns the public education system. That's why public education is so important. And that's why efforts to improve public education have to be rooted in an ongoing dialogue and discussion that engages, of course, students, parents, teachers, other staff, but also the broader public and the broader community. If we can have people come with us on a journey, our chances of getting there are much improved. And lastly, making better use of existing facilities and resources. Every system faces ongoing challenges around productivity and efficiency. Circumstances change, and one is always thinking in any field about how best to deploy the resources we have. That is often hard to do because patterns of resource deployment get quite entrenched. We've always done it this way, and so we want to continue to do it that way. But here I'm trying to raise some issues where I think there is an opportunity to think differently about how we use resources and to redeploy some resources from less effective, not necessarily bad, but less effective kinds of practices to more effective kinds of practices. And again, in the report, I list several specific examples of that.